Welcome to Significance Breed Success. I'm your host, Daniel Puder. Today, I have a friend all the way back to eighth grade. When I was wearing short blue shorts, I was the new kid at Kennedy Middle School. I roll up and kids are teasing me. I have no clue why. I have short shorts. And this guy, Kyle Kingsbury, was the dude that was on like the cool jock. He was smart. He was freaking good looking. All the girls wanted him. The guys wanted to be him. And he was the dude that stood up for him. And so because of that, created some great friends, built a great career. He got to fight. And now he's off to business, building a family. Bro, thank you for coming on today.
Hell yeah. Thank you for having me, brother.
So that was a long time ago. That was like 14. Let's see, we were 14 years old. That's a long time ago.
24 years.
I'm working to count here. I'm like, wow. So
yeah, that doesn't even make sense saying that. It's a weird thing to be like, 24 years ago when we met. Yeah, it's weird.
So I'm super proud of you. You had an amazing career in the UFC. You have an awesome family. Your boy Bear is super cute. Your wife is amazing. I follow your all your social. It's great to be able to see how you've transferred in from the sports world into business. You're successful. What's going on? What's the secret? Like, how do you do it all? Because most people look at it and they're like, I want abs like you. I want to be sexy like you. I want the wife that's hot. I want the kids. I want the full package. And you created
it. Well, thank you, brother. That's super flattering. I think if there's one thing that I think if I was to narrow it down to one thing that kind of connects all these dots, it's learning how to listen to my intuition. And, when fighting was going on, it's not like we got in 1993. We were young, we were watching UFC, stuff like that. And it was just taking off. We had trained together at AKA, I think when we were 16. And then you continued on after high school. And of course I wanted to play college football. So I focused solely on that. When football ended, I really didn't know what to do, but I started training in mixed martial arts just to have a team, just to have camaraderie. I didn't think I was going to be a professional fighter, and that led into professional fighting, some quick wins.
Weren't you like 9-0? Like you were
I was, I think 7-0, and then 7-1. And then that's when I got to AK after my first loss. You would talk to me and you're like, dude, you took one loss. That's fine, but you can't take any more. You got to come to AK and start training with the real guys. And you're a big influence on me moving back to the Bay Area, where we're from, born and raised and all that. And, but again, like intuition was guiding me the whole time. Like, it was like, cool, let's see how far this goes. I didn't have any delusions of grandeur about how far I would go or anything I would do. My fight career as a whole was really successful. My career in the UFC, not so successful. I think I ended 4-5. I had more losses than wins, and that's when I got out. But at every turn, not knowing what was next. When football ended, I was really depressed. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I knew that the education I was getting was absolute crap. And I don't know how far we're allowed to curse on this podcast, so I'll just keep it PG-13.
Go ahead, bro. This is whatever you want.
And so that I'm trying to be a bit more mindful of when I'm a guest rather than a host. But, just looking at what's missing in my life. What are the things that I used to have that I want to have, or what are the things that I have but I need more of? Like what drives me. So being around people that care about me and that I care about, and working towards something collectively. It's a weird thing to say as an individual sport is fighting, but the team is a big deal, and that. So that's something that I really was missing from football, was being on a team, and something I found in fighting. And along the way, really found what made me tick. Huitzi, I think you were still at AK when Huitzi first got there. He was a medicine man as well as our boxing coach, and really started working with me on boxing, and at the same time working with me on Native American traditions, sweat lodges, plant medicines, and everything in between. And that started to crack me open a little bit deeper. Up until that point, I was really focused on, performance, and then longevity, things like that. Like, all right, this sport's going to take its toll. How do I make sure that I can think and speak clearly when it ends? How can I make sure that I could still read books to my kids when I have them? All those things were kind of lingering in the background of my mind. So I was always interested, on the sports performance side of things, as well as, taking it a step further. What does my life look like after this when it's all done? Because it's just a short period of time, one phase in a long life. And so health and wellness and fitness were always a part of, my wheelhouse per se. And then with plant medicine, spirituality, and, many of the great teachers, I started following different people like Ram Dass and Dr. Wayne Dyer, and just diving deeper into that realm. And, again, all along the way, whatever that is, everyone's path is different. But if we're all trying to get the most out of this life while we're here, I think intuition is a great place to start, because you don't necessarily need a why behind it. And it goes against our rational minds quite often, like, shit, I never wanted to be a fighter, and here I am fighting. I never wanted to do a lot of things, and here I am. I never thought I'd live in Texas, yet here I am. The opportunity came up to work for Aubrey Marcus at On It, and we completely hit it off. And this is a guy I've been following for many years on Joe Rogan's podcast, and it's like, done deal. Here we go. Life has brought me to the next place. And I think about that often in hindsight, because in the moment, it's a bit hard to really grasp the full picture of. And so, being here now, doing what I'm doing, podcasting, working at Fit for Service as one of the coaches with 150 people, it's a really fulfilling, awesome place to be in, that also, keeps the pressure on. Fighting, as is a great, it gives you a great reason to learn more. If I need to, study the fight game itself, for sure, but can I study the things that will help me recover faster? Ice bath, sauna, stretching, yoga. Like, yeah, that's important too. Can I study how to sleep better? Sure. That's going to lead to better recovery and better immune function, and not getting sick or beat up during, the long 8 weeks of camp. So all those reasons were there. And now I still have those reasons. They're different reasons. They're simplified in ways where people still need to lose weight. People still need to reconnect to their bodies, and they're more complex. How do we reconnect to nature? How do we find ourselves in a space where, through the nature of society and the push for the individual to become realized, and individualization of the masses, how do we come to find our space or place in the whole? How do we look at ourselves as deeply interconnected with one another? And those are the things that I'm starting to tackle more of. And nature seems to be a key missing ingredient in this recipe book. So a lot of what we're doing is working with Native American elders and different people to reconnect to the land, to find different ways for altered states of consciousness. Everybody who's followed me knows that I'm huge into plant medicines, but something the guys at Mind Pump taught me is you have to find the lowest common denominator. And for a lot of people, no matter where you're living, a lot of this stuff's still illegal. So what are the legal ways we can crack that code and get out of our heads and back into our hearts? And breath work seems to be pretty good at that. Meditation for those that have enough practice, but nature is a key ingredient, and not just going for hikes or going to the beach and swimming. That's all great too, but actually doing some different practices, like what Tim Corcoran calls a soul wander, or the old school vision quest, 4 days with no food, no water, to actually crack the skull and get into an altered state of consciousness. These are the things that fascinate me, because that'll never be illegal. And it doesn't matter where you live. If you have a template for how the best practices are done within that, you can access that. And these are the things that we need to access, so we can get off the loop of the rabid monkey mind and step back into a calmer state of peace and equanimity.
Do you find, so I look at when I agree, like you were like, hey, I didn't really, like, I saw that you were very present, and you weren't as committed to like big results younger in your life. You were committed to more of the present and really being the best version of you. Is that, how do you get to there? How do you actually, like, is that a natural thing for you, or did you have to learn that?
Well, you learn it. One of my yoga teachers, Jen Prue, talked about this. Balance isn't necessarily standing in one spot. It's not meditating in a cave for 30 years. Balance is not, just sitting on the ground. Balance is pushing out to the extreme far left, to the extreme far right. And I don't mean this politically, although that can be true as well, but pushing yourself to the extremes on both ends to then find your center space, right? And we do this through hot and cold contrast therapies. We do this through seeing where our limit is physically. As an athlete, athletes are always trying to push themselves beyond what they think they're capable of. And if you're a successful athlete, you realize these are just glass ceilings. You burst through the next glass ceiling and you see one up ahead and you're like, oh, there's another ceiling. And then you push through that one and you're like, oh, maybe these don't actually exist. Right. And whatever potential I have might be limitless. My ability to transcend and move through this world in all aspects of life might be that. But one of the things that I work with people on is unpacking the "I'll be happy when" narrative. So through religion and various means and culture and society as a whole, we have this idea that if you bust your ass right now, you'll be happy later in life. That's when you'll get all the good stuff, whether that's in heaven or whether that's in retirement. And you make sacrifice and you're a martyr and you do all these things in the service of someone else so that one day you'll get the gold and you'll be happy. You'll have all the time that you want. You'll do all these things. And even working amongst business people, there's a teeter-totter of wealth. On one side, we have finance. On the other side, we have time. And almost everyone in the West inevitably will skew that teeter-totter towards finance, towards money at the expense of their time. And it doesn't matter how much money you have, if you don't have time to spend it, if you can't take a vacation, if you work 50 hours a week, that's not a sustainable practice. It's pretty much guaranteed that you're missing out on a daily basis. So one of the things I work to unpack that is have people think of what they would do in retirement. What would heaven be like? What would any of these things where the grass is greener look like to them? Well, most of them would say they'd have more of the thing they don't. They'd have time to do what they want. They'd be out in nature. They might have a garden. They might have the relationship with their dreams. They might have X, Y, and Z. Whatever those things are, backtrack that now and start to incorporate it into your daily life right now. So if you need more time for yourself, and trust me, I'm a busy dude too. Like I don't have an hour for meditation, but if I can get 20 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes in at lunch, and 20 minutes in at the end of the day, that's close to an hour. That starts to add up, right? And meditation for me might be active meditation. It might be something else entirely. It might be yoga where I'm focused exclusively on my breath as I move through different positions. And in that experience, I'm not in my thinking mind. So I've effectively given myself the same break I would if I was sitting in stillness. I can be active as I create stillness in my headspace. And that's critical for a lot of people. But of all the tools that I've been amassing in the toolbox, the most important thing is to understand what it is for you that you're called to, right? Some people may not want to sit quietly. Some people may say, look, I'm a little bit frantic. I overthink shit. I'm anxious. I'm worried about the outcome of this election. I'm worried about what's going to happen in the world. I'm worried about the divisiveness of everyone that seems to be getting more and more polarized on a daily basis. Well, if you can't affect the outside to the degree that you hope you can, how do you affect the inside? We all have control over our own inner kingdom. And that's what all the ancient wise people said, be the change you wish to see in the world. So it would be impossible to teach peace if you do not, in fact, embody that peace. So the first step is embodying the things that you want more of. And that's where the gut will lead you. If you just overthink it, it's hard in the thought because we start to get tunnel vision, right? We start thinking about all these things that are outside of our control, all these what ifs. And I think a great degree of what people are learning now is comfort with uncertainty and comfort with discomfort. That's from Wim Hof to a lot of these great people that have figured out ways to crack the code of both physicality and psychology. They're doing that by embracing something that's uncomfortable, whether that's an ice bath or holotropic breathing or, ultra marathon running, whatever that is that helps them to get out of their heads. Those are very powerful things when we elect to do them with purpose and intention. And I think the more we can start to incorporate things like that, again, finding our middle ground through the extreme, we can sort of backlog where we want to be and how we want to craft the life of our dreams right now. Not 30 years from now, not 50 years from now, not when you die, but right now.
So I find that you're talking a lot about intentions and choice. I was leading a training on emotional belief intelligence about 3 years ago with a group of teachers. And one teacher front row told me that her kids don't have choice. And I looked at her and I said, do they not have choice,